What's up folks, Mike here at Watchmakers. Welcome to the fourth video in the series where we're reassembling the Seiko Pogue. And in this video we're going to reassemble the working side of the movement, and we're going to actually start with the centre wheel and centre bridge, which is fairly straightforward. So we've got the centre wheel here. We're just going to add a little bit of lubrication to this part of the pinion and to the top part of the pinion, and then we're going to add the bridge plate. So the wheel's in place now, and we're going to add the top bridge plate. And the screw that goes into this plate is the matte finish screw. So as I said in the previous video, if you're not sure where all the screws go, as you disassemble it, replace the screw in the hole from where it came, and then when you come to reassemble it, you'll have the screw in the correct position. So there we go, we can check the wheel is free, which it is. And then we're ready to move on to the next section, which will be the train wheels and the barrel bridge. So we're going to need all the parts for that. So there's quite a few parts going on here. So we're going to lubricate the barrel arbor. And put that in place. As you can see, the centre wheel turns there, so that's in the correct position. Just add a little bit of lubrication to the top of the barrel arbor. And then with the chronograph wheel, right at the centre of the chronograph wheel where the small gear slips, I'm going to add a little bit of lubrication there so that it's free to move once the chronograph is activated. Now the correct way to lubricate the chronograph wheel ordinarily is to place the chronograph wheel down on a flat surface and use some tweezers to depress the clutch so that the lubrication can sink into that point a little bit better. Now you can do that, but it is quite high risk. You end up putting too much pressure on the clutch spring and completely obliterating the wheel itself. I don't like to do that. I had a little bit of lubrication to the roughly to the area there, and then as the chronograph is running, that lubrication seeps in over time during testing, and everything's hunky-dory. So that's pre-lubricated and ready to go. So we're going to put the escape wheel in place. And then we're going to add the third wheel. Get that to sit in position, like so. Then we can add the chronograph wheel. Now on the underside of this bridge, not sure if it's going to come up in the video, there's a jewel here and then there's a bearing here. You want to add a little bit of lubrication there, some 941 grease if possible, which is a really lightweight grease normally used for pallets, but I like to add a little bit of 941 grease to these pivot holes because they're not accessible once the plate is in position. So there's the lubrication in there. Just get rid of any of the excess, we don't want that. So where did I put that? There we go. So we're going to position the plate in the correct position, using the barrel arbor as a guide. We gently just touch the plate, then we'll get the escape wheel in position, and we can see that wheels are freely able to turn. Fit the bridge screws to keep it all in position. There are 3 screws for this barrel plate, 1 over here and 2 on the other side. Excuse my head getting in the way. I'm just going to tighten down those screws, and then we'll recheck the train wheels are free moving. You don't want to tighten the screws all the way down super tight, because we want to check that the train wheels are moving freely first. So the wheels are free to move there, so I can tighten down those screws. Quite often with these watches you'll find that these screws on this plate are actually quite loose, because people forget to tighten them down. So now we're going to place the ratchet wheel once up there, like so. Now we're going to use the ratchet screw. We're just going to screw the ratchet screw down, not super hard, because we're going to wind it up later, and that winding is going to apply enough pressure to tighten the screw, which we will see later on. So we're going to add the click now. The click just goes in the side. It would if it hadn't tried to hide from me. Oops, if I can see it. Just going to fit the click screw. Yeah, a couple of clicks on the click there, check that it's working properly, and that's that section done. So now we're going to move on to adding the chronograph parts and the chronograph plate, and then once those parts are in position we can add the pallets and balance, and we can check the running of the movement and see how well it's going there. So we've got the coupling levers, we've got the hammer, the other coupling lever, hammer spring and coupling spring. Don't need the pallets cock just yet. We need 3 bridge plate screws, shoulder screw, that's for the pallets. It's the column wheel shim, screw. So the first thing we're going to add back now is the column wheel. Just want to use a bit of grease here. First we fit the shim, then we get the column wheel, and what we're going to do is we can use a driver here to depress the column wheel spring, just so there's no pressure there whilst we fit the wheel. When you fit the column wheel, not sure how visible it's going to be on the screen, when you fit the column wheel you want to make sure that this lever slots in between the gap of the column wheel, because you want the chronograph to be in the starting position when you assemble it. So we're just going to find the chronograph column wheel screw. Tighten that down. Just adding a bit of grease there to the column wheel, which we'll dab off later with the Rodico. Like so. So the next part will be the coupling levers. So we have one for each side, but we're going to add a little bit of lubrication for the coupling levers. Like so. That's the first coupling lever. And then the second one, make sure that it's underneath the clutch plate of the chronograph wheel so that they're not catching at funny angles or anything like that. You might be able to see that on the video. And just here on the coupling lever where the two meet, we'll have a little teeny dab of grease so that they don't become sticky. Just a little dab there. So we're going to fit these two screws. This is a shouldered screw which sits up here at the top, and that stops the coupling lever coming out when the lever's depressed out on the outside of the watch. And then the other screw is to secure the other coupling lever down so that that can't lift off. So there we go, there we have the two coupling levers in position. So now we're going to fit the hammer and the hammer spring as well as the coupling spring. So you're going to need a piece of pegwood, just keep things in position. Now with the hammer, along these edges here, you're going to want a little bit of lubrication. Again, you want the grease 941, which is a very lightweight grease. And these surfaces, both here and here, are what press on the cams of the chronograph wheel and the minute recording wheel. And that's what helps the hands to reset. So if you're having a reset issue with the 6139, quite a lot of the time you'll find the issue actually lays in the hammer or the hammer spring. The hammer spring's lost its shape, and so it can't apply enough pressure to the hammer. Or the surfaces here and here on the hammer have become roughened and they're not smooth, and they need to be polished with some fine diamantine paste in order to get the hammer to work again, to do what it's supposed to do, and that is to push the cams to reset the wheels itself. So just before we apply that to the watch, we're going to add a little bit of grease. Okay folks, apologies, the battery in the camera died whilst we were dealing with the hammer and hammer spring. So the hammer is in position. There is a post right next to the column wheel here that the hammer sits over. There's a hole in the hammer plate that goes over. That post is lubricated so the hammer can move freely. And now we're going to attach the hammer spring. And you'll need a piece of pegwood to keep the hammer spring in position, because it does have a tendency to want to fly off. So you're going to have to excuse my head getting in the way. Once you get the hammer spring in position around that post, it normally likes to sit there, so now we just need the pegwood to keep pressure against that post so it can't just fly out. And then we bring tail end of the spring and place it under the lever here. So that's the hammer spring in position. We're going to now put the coupling spring in position. Now this spring is a bit larger and a bit thicker, so it comes under a bit more tension. Get it right way around. Again, we're going to use pegwood to hold it in position. And once we're sure that the spring's in position, we can let go. So that's the hammer spring and the coupling spring all in position. So now we're going to fit the minute wheel and the intermediate minute wheel. The minute wheel doesn't require any lubrication at all. And then the intermediate wheel sits on top. That bearing there, and again, no lubrication required for that hole. Any lubrication you add there will create drag and cause problems further on down the line. So now we're going to fit the chronograph bridge on top, but before that we're going to add a little bit of grease to the hammer post. Like so. Now it's important when you're positioning this chronograph bridge that you get the pivot of the chronograph wheel, the minute recording wheel and the intermediate wheel all in line and all straight, and hold the plate down with some pressure with the pegwood, and then put your screws in position. But do not tighten the screws all the way down straight away. You want to make sure that all of the wheels are free moving. So we're going to move this plate into position now. So I can see the minute wheels in there. Chronograph is in there. Just trying to get the intermediate wheel in position. There we go, we've got all three wheels in position. So using the pegwood, we're just going to have enough pressure to keep the plate down whilst we position the screws. And we don't want to put these screws all the way down super tight, just enough to hold the plate in position. So we've got one screw in there, we're going to get one screw on the other side, and then we can let go. Just like so, and there's the chronograph bridge. And when we move this spring here in position, it's going to move the hammer out of the way, and usually you'll find that the chronograph wheel will start to spin freely if there's any pressure from the mainspring. So we're going to put that spring in position. And we saw the chronograph wheel just moved a little bit there. And what we're going to do is we can take a large driver and we're going to place it onto the ratchet wheel through this hole. I'm going to apply a teeny amount of pressure on the mainspring to check that the wheels will move freely. And I mean a teeny amount. So all three of the wheels there are free moving, so we know that the plate is not trapping any of the pinions. We're not going to crush any pinions when we screw this down. So add the final screw there at the top. And there we have, that's most of the hard work for that side. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to fitting the pallet cock and the balance, and then we're going to wind it up, and with any luck the movement should come to life. So we've got the pallet cock, somewhere in there is the other pallet screw, there it is. Pallets themselves, balance, balance screw. So we're going to lubricate the pallets again with some 941 grease, which is a super light grease designed for pallets. We're going to add a little touch of grease on both the pallet stone faces. Now the amount you need is going to be a very tiny amount in terms of the entire face of the jewel. You're going to want about 1 to 2/8 of the surface with the jewel. Now you can do it this way by adding the grease, or you can do it with the pallets in situ, and you can add some power to the mainspring and add lubrication as it goes round. You activate it every second tooth, etc. So there is more than one way to do it, but I've always done it this way and never had an issue doing it this way. But no doubt there'd be someone in the comments saying you don't do it that way, you can do it this way. I'm aware of all the different ways you can do it. I just choose to do it the way that I do it. Also like to add a little bit of the 941 grease to the pivots on the pallet, so that the pallets can turn smoothly in the jewels. We'll place that pallet in position, and then the pallet bridge, pallet cock, pallet bridge. So that's roughly in position, but the pallets didn't want to sit naturally, so we're going to just put a little bit of pressure on the cock. And we've manoeuvred the pallets into position. So we can add a screw, hold the cock down with some pegwood. Lightly tighten that screw, but not all the way down. Fit the screw on the opposite side. Now what we're going to do is we're going to check that the pallets are free to move, and the power from the mainspring can move all the way through the train to the pallets, and that the pallets can move side to side before we fit the balance. So we're going to add a couple of winds on the mainspring. 4 wires will do. Then we're going to check the pallets can engage and disengage, which they can. And then we can tighten down the screws for the pallet cock. And now we can put the balance in place, and it should come to life. There we go, the balance has already come to life before we've even secured it. So we use the pegwood to make sure the balance cock can't move. Tighten it down on that side. Screws on that side, and now all we're going to do is we're going to give the mainspring a good couple of winds for 2 reasons. First reason is we're going to want to spread that grease that's inside the barrel and get some power into the watch, and secondly it's obviously going to power up the watch, and then we can check the timing of the movement itself. So now we're going to look at the timing of the watch before we move on to the next part of the video, which will be the next video that I upload, which will be part 5, where we work on the dial side assembly and the automatic system. But for now, let's check the timing as it is. There's no lubrication here apart from the parts that we've already lubricated. So we're going to see what the timing's like as is straight after this. So I'll see you in a moment. So folks, if we move the screen in position, hopefully you'll be able to see that there. We've got an amplitude of about 200 degrees, which is what I would expect before it's been lubricated fully. And we've got a beat error of 0.2 milliseconds and a fairly good rate. So the movement is running pretty healthily at the moment, but of course it's not finished. We've got to do the dial side and the automatic system, and then we've got to lubricate everything, of course, and then we're going to fine check the regulation for the final assembly and recasing, etc. But for now, I'm quite happy with the condition and state of that movement. It's running along quite healthy at a good rate. So that's it for this video. Be sure to come back for part 5, where we'll be doing the dial side, which is the stem setting, day, date section, and then the automatic section, and then that'll be the complete movement assembled. So be sure to come back for that one, and if you like the video, leave a like. If you like watch videos and you want to subscribe to the channel, then do that. There's also a Patreon page if you want to check out the Patreon page. Feel free to do that. All the information will be in the description below. So until the next time, take care guys, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.